Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode number 13 of the Sim Racing in Focus podcast. I'm your host, Dean Reddit. I'm the owner and editor of simracinginfocus.blog website. Also, this podcast. It's a podcast where we talk about all things sim racing, but also, in particular, just the Australian iRacing scene. On tonight's episode, we're going to be getting into a little bit more news as iRacing drops its build tease for the upcoming new week 13, the new iRacing season. We've also got results from the N24-hour special event. We'll get into our race recaps with the Logitech G Pro Invitational series, V8 Scops, and a couple other things. But joining me again tonight is our voice of wisdom when it comes to news and all things sim racing related. Hughes, once again, welcome, buddy.
Good morning or evening. Depends on when you're listening to this, I guess.
That is true. It is.
How are you going, mate?
For us, it's evening though, isn't it? It's 9 o'clock at night, definitely. So we may not be the sharpest tools in the shed here. But
it better be evening, otherwise I have a drinking problem.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely. Well, it's Friday evening our time anyway, so we've earned it. It's been a big week, mate. I'm battling off the cold, and
yeah, me too. Even myself, I've had it since. Actually, I got it after I wound down after the Premier Endurance League GT4 race last Sunday. Right after I finished that, and I went to bed, like I could just feel it in my throat. I'm like, oh, that's not good. And I woke up in the middle of the night just aching. I'm like, no.
Yeah, winter's setting in, so it's been through the whole family, and it hasn't. I've had the onset of it the last 2 days, so it's been making me feel a little bit run down. But we're getting there. We've got through to the weekend, so now I'll be sick all weekend. Now that I haven't done the right thing and taken time off work to recover, I've worked through, and now I'll cop it in my own free time.
100%.
Alrighty. Well, let's get into, I guess, we'll call it the meat and potatoes of tonight's episode, and that is that iRacing have released the build notes for the upcoming build, and it's a pretty heavily anticipated one, which is headlined by Ford Mustang and the Corvette Gen 4 Supercars.
Yeah, it's literally is a V8 Supercar GT3 Australia.
Yeah. Sorry to the supercar fans. That's not correct. It's the GT3 versions, but we might end up there yet with supercars.
All you got to do is turn the bloody TC and bloody ABS off, and you're pretty much there.
Can you whack a sequential in it?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? The sequential, take the ABS out and the traction control.
Yeah.
Way we
go. The old Ford had a stick in it, so why not?
Fair dinkum, how old was the old Ford GT3? That's got to be the longest serving paid content that iRacing.
Yeah.
We've laughed about how Winton was probably the shortest serving paid content.
No. I said it was the shittest, not the shortest.
Why not both?
I just want to clarify that.
It's like the El Paso ad. Why can't it be both?
Yeah.
It can be the shittest and longest serving. Anyway, I tell you what, it wouldn't be far behind Winton for the worst piece of content.
It's only good for the skid pad, and that's it.
Yeah, luckily I didn't ever end up getting the Ford GT, but I will get the new one. So there you go, iRacing. I'm not completely tight after all. So so have you had much of a chance to dive into the full build releases? Because there's actually obviously we'll talk a bit about the Ford Mustang and the GT3 here at the start, but there's also quite a lot of other stuff coming in this build as well, and they seem to be getting bigger and bigger.
They're talking about another track, Circuit de Navarra, that's coming out. but then they also talk about, which I can't remember if it's actually coming in this build or if it's coming up, but they've got the Saxon Ring coming, which is in Germany. Yeah, Germany. Man, that is, you wouldn't know that track if you don't, unless you follow MotoGP, because they're like the only race series that pretty much goes there. It is an awesome track, man. I'm keen as to see the dive bombs on that track because it's got this fast rhythm section where it's these long sweeping S's, and then it sweeps to a right hander and then down a hill to like a hard braking zone to a 90-degree left. And it's just like, yeah, when you watch the GP race there, man, it's just epic every time. It's such a cool track.
It's so funny. When I hear you say Saxon Ring, I know straight away. I know the circuit and the name. When I read it on the website, I'm just like, what the hell is like?
I
when
know.
You see the spelling of it, I'm like, what's this place in Germany? But Saxon.
When you
Ring,
read
I've never seen
like,
it spelled before. I'm expecting like SAXON. Yeah, like
it's funny. I've heard a few other podcasts like try and pronounce it, and just because I've known the track for so long watching GP, it was just funny because I knew what they were trying to say. Like,
you've seen it spelled before. It's a real weird one. That right? So that's Saxon Ring. I love all I read with the Circuit de Navarra is it's located at the base of the Iberian Mountain, and I feel like if the iRacing population's from there as well, it might be a net what's the good iRating killer to go there and race. It sounds like that's where it's about on par with the Australian ping rate out there somewhere.
There'll be a lot of turn one murders in that track.
Oh dear. All right. Well, let's work through it in some sort of chronological order, and let's start. We'll try and do a bit of a deep dive with just at least 5 minutes here or 10 minutes here, and let's kick it off with the GT3 cars. So, which one are you planning on picking up? Both? Are you looking at one over the other? What's your initial take with the release of? When we put the show notes together, we had the silhouette sort of photo, but now we've got some actual rendered photos as well. So, what's your initial thoughts with those?
I am pumped for the Mustang. The Mustang, just there's two reasons for this. The first one is it sounds awesome. The second one is the Corvette doesn't sound like a V8. And like, I don't know, like I've had the GTE, and obviously it's not the same thing, but it's not going to be completely different as far as looks go. It's slightly altered, but and the sound of it's going to be a little bit more of the same, probably fine-tuned a bit more, but I don't know. I'm a big like car sound person. That's why I hate the BMW so much. If the BMW sounded like it had more life in it, I would probably run that car every day of the week. But like, just because it doesn't, it's a major thing for me. Like it's weird. But yeah, that Mustang, man, I'm so pumped for that. I think that's gonna be cool. And like whether it's good or whether it's crap, like I will be running that in Premiere next season for sure.
Yeah, like, you know, I guess it's the way with the supercars on iRacing. Like, if you can drive the thing and it makes it. The thing with the Camry, for me is when you drive it, it sounds shit and it feels slow. But like, if you can drive something that sounds awesome, feels fast, the enjoyment factor is always going to be there, depending on no matter where the BOP lies with that particular GT3 car. That's why I think the Merc's always easy to drive for me.
Yeah,
because
that's why I religiously say with the Beamer, it's the car to be driven at Bathurst and the Nürburgring, because even though the car is so boring, the track is still so hectic that it makes it exciting.
Yeah. That is true. I really actually agree with that strongly. But you know, the Merc, like, you can always just turn it up and it feels like you're hanging on for grim death and you're driving it flat out, but your lap times might be a bit ordinary. But obviously we haven't heard it yet in iRacing. We've heard it in real life and also with ACC. So, geez, I just hope they can get somewhere close with the sound. I
Oh
would
man,
take close.
if it doesn't sound good, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah.
It better sound good.
The worst thing for me, the biggest tease of all time, would be if it turns out like the Aston Martin GT4 car, where it sounds amazing from the outside, but then you can barely hear it from the inside.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm convinced it's going to sound really good. And the reason being is I've noticed in the most recent V8 releases on iRacing that the sound has been really good. Whether that be the AMG GT3, like the updated one.
LMP3 is pretty good too, right? Like
the LMP, the LMP3 sounds awesome and it's very on point to the real thing. And the other one is the late model, the new late model car.
Oh yeah.
And that thing sounds awesome. And I'm just like, I've got hope for them that they'll get that Coyote sound bang on.
Yeah. Yeah, the trademark motor sound, the Coyote, absolutely.
Yeah,
and we're saying, and you've got you mentioned before that the Corvette isn't. You reckon it doesn't sound good, but you're basing that on real life.
It's on. Yeah, honestly, in real life, it doesn't sound like a V8. Like it just doesn't have that noise.
I wonder why that is, because the street car sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like the way I described it out the back.
Yeah, the way I kind of described it to the guys in the Discord was like anyone that's ever owned a WRX, like they sound the way they do because of the uneven exhaust headers on it. And if you put even headers on it, it takes away the rumble, and it just sounds like a crappy 4-cylinder. Like it's just, all because of that. I don't know if that's got something to do with it or if it's something to do with the stroke on it or what, but it just doesn't sound like a V8. Like it's such an odd thing. And it honestly sounds like that in real life. It's well, even the sound of the GTE one in iRacing is pretty on par with what it actually sounds like.
Yeah, that was, I remember that being a little bit underwhelming as far as the sound point of view goes when it first got released. Because the thing, like, I like the look of the Corvette. Like,
it looks good.
But then you just sort of get, it's very much like the Beamer. You get handed a bit of a wet fish that you just, you don't really, you get left a little bit, like, where's my newspaper? Boring with this, but I'm sorry. But so that's an interesting, it's a good development. I mean, it's long been touted that they did get the scans done at Daytona this year in the real life Daytona 24 hours. So they've turned it around. You did alert me to a comment on the post of the new. Was it today or yesterday that iRacing released the photo of the actual coloured versions of the car?
Yes,
and and they had there was a comment on there regarding you tell the story. Can you remember it? What talk us through what the post said and then what the comment was in the comment section.
I'm having a brain fart moment. Can you remind me?
So
sorry. I was on night shift last night and I haven't had much sleep, so that's why I'm like this.
Don't worry. We can always cut this bit out. No. Where did we put it? That's was
it in the Discord?
It was. I'll get it. Right.
I remember putting the photo in there.
Right. Amongst all the other photos that's in our Discord. I lost it. But it was the comment. So the caption on the photo showed the Corvette and the Mustang, obviously on the start finish line, and I think the caption was what are kilometers? Kilometers or something like that.
Yeah.
And someone wrote in there, I'll tell you what kilometers are when you finally release the Gen 3 Supercars. And then we got the follow-up comment, which was something along the lines of, these cars have been an absolute pain in our ass. That, sort of implying that they've long wanted to release the Gen 3 Supercar, but for reasons unbeknown to us, that it's been periods of delay, and of course we're here to throw out. We're not shy about throwing our points of view out. I'm saying that sort of reads like there's a lot of frustration with supercars, perhaps around that. That's how I interpreted that post to be. So
yeah, it's kind of like, no, you can't scan them yet because, like, even though we're into our second season, we're still trying to fix the cars. Like,
yeah. We're not going to release them to you because
if we haven't even finished them yet,
fall apart on the way over, or that's just, it was just a real, that was only just today, I think, and just even the person commenting was like, geez, I don't really like to post like an updatey type comment, but yeah, these cars, the Gen 3 supercar has been a real frustration point for iRacing.
Well, it was Steve Myers that actually commented.
Oh, Steve Myers, there you go.
Yeah, so it's the bigwig himself. So, straight from the horse's mouth.
So it's either well, I mean, it's got to be somewhere where supercars have made it very difficult for iRacing to get scans. I think they did get a scan, but perhaps when was that? That was in the off season when they went over there for aero or something, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think it might have been prior all that. I think it might have been. So the scan they got isn't accurate. It's pre fucking parity fix. Like,
yeah. That I think that's about right. That would probably mirror up with the timing of everything. So the rumor has it went over there for a scan prior to a season, whether it was this one or last one, and probably supercars have said, well, we can't release that because that's not accurate, and they're like, by the way, we won't be back for another 6 months or 12 months, so you can't get any more scan data done. Which kind of some supercars, we don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but that kind of pretty much puts a nice bow tie on the way the supercars have gone this season with the amount of fallout they've had. They can't even get their car into iRacing. So,
it's like, initial, like, at the end of the day, like what we heard about the first sort of like rumor about, the Gen 3 cars are going to get scanned. Like, it was about the time we found out that like Pukekohe was like going to get scanned.
True. I forgot about
that. So it's like, so this is probably like nearly 12 months ago that we first heard about it.
100%.
And then, and literally now all we've actually heard is no further progression, just actual confirmation going, this is happening, but we don't know when. Like, that's literally it. Like, it doesn't. Hashtag soon's like even too soon for this one, I think.
Yeah. How long has it got to go on for before it becomes rivaled with the rain? Hashtag soon. Like, it's probably 2 years. We're probably a year into that already. But obviously, so frustrating for the supercars community on iRacing. Even though they've gone underground and away from the official series, like there's still a lot of league runners, but
See, that's another thing too. Like, they would be looking at their official series and going, there's not much traction in that series. No one does it. So like, we'll put that one on the back burner and not rush it, because what's the point? Like, you know what I mean? They're like, that one can wait because no one's doing it.
Well,
like, you know what I mean?
Can you imagine if supercars say initially, like, let's say the rumors were true and they initially took the car over to America because they were going there to do aero testing anyway, and they allowed iRacing to scan it, and then they sort of said, hey, listen, the car's moved on a fair bit since the scan was done. We're not happy with that the data you capture will be good. We want you to rescan the car before it gets released on iRacing. But you're going to have to come out here to do it. Well, iRacing's probably going to look at it and go, can we justify the cost of sending all of our team over there? And the way we do justify that is we'll look at participation numbers in the official series. They're getting, 3-4 races a week go official. No, we're not. We're not going to justify that when we've got, whether it's the super formula cars going gangbusters, but hey, we'll go over to Asia instead and we'll do will target the second level of the Super Formula, which was coming out in the last build. Obviously, these cars that are coming out in this build are close to home because they're running in the IMSA series. Then they're going to prioritize all that stuff because they know it's just going to be an instant hit anyway. But I'm sure they would still be aware that there's a fair scene here in Australia for the hosted leagues. But
yeah,
I mean, if that's the way that they're going to justify spend, which is fair enough, then you could certainly understand why they wouldn't want to pay to come out here.
Yeah, well, they definitely are. Like, it is on the radar for them, the league side of it, because they did post that that last lap battle in the V8 Veterans on their YouTube channel. So, yes, definitely on their radar. So, they do know about it.
Yeah, that was cool to see, that last lap battle.
Yeah.
Was it Mike Taliancic and Ricky? Forget his last name. I really shouldn't, but Ricky. I haven't seen Ricky since, but he was there that night, and I think he's from NZ, and they had that was the conclusion to the first season of V8 Veterans that we covered. So that was, that was a really not. It's taken. Geez, that was probably 4 months ago.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
Yeah, so it's taken a long time to come out on 3 months ago, 4 months. It's taken a long time to make its way to iRacing, but it's got there.
Yeah.
Very good. So, yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you do not know a whole lot about Circuito de Nevada.
No, I know more now. Like, you've told me that it's an Iberian track, so I know about that. Other than that, I did not know about it. I don't even know. I don't think I watch a single, like I watch a lot of different race series, like whether it be GT3, Formula One sometimes, and MotoGP, and I don't think, like maybe GP's been there before. But like it rings a bell. The track rings a bell. So I have a feeling that MotoGP may have used to go there.
Well, here's the breakdown.
Back in the day.
So it's located at the base of the Iberian mountain range in Spain, with the Pyrenees looming to the northeast. Circuito de Nevada offers a beautiful landscape with compelling racing and exciting changes of elevation. It's always good when a track changes elevation. Host to many types of racing, including British Superbike F4 Spanish Championship and the 24-hour series. So that's the extent of the racing that's been there.
Yeah, World Superbikes have been there. British Bikes, British Talent Cup's been there. That's probably where I've seen it. It's been a while since I watched World Superbikes, but that would have been where I've seen it.
Yeah, but whilst it may not resonate massively right now, it may come its release because it's going to be free.
Yep.
So it's going to be a free track. So but it sounds like, apart from the Superbikes, it sounds like it's the 24 hours. I was going to say low downforce cars, slow cars, but then the 24-hour series is there. So it doesn't say which 24-hour series. It doesn't say. I mean, I'm pretty confident the World Endurance Championship doesn't go there. I don't know. It could be wrong. I don't know. I haven't heard of the Iberian Grand Prix or anything like that. So anyway, it's interesting that it's going to be free though. So that's pretty good.
That's good, but that seems to be becoming a more consistent thing with them having free tracks, which is good. Like, especially for series like all their rookie series and even like their D-Class series. So like the Production Car Cup and whatnot. And like Production Car Cup, man, they would just circulate in the same tracks all the time. And it's good now that they're starting to circulate through different tracks because all these other ones are becoming free. It's good to see. It stops it from being so stale so easily.
Well, just reading the description of where the track's based, I think the main category that goes here is the F4 Spanish Championship. So, it would be a perfect car for the F4. The F4's in D-Class, I believe. It all makes sense. All makes perfect sense, really. And, we don't need to cover any more about that.
One thing I am excited about, Bart, which it's funny that it didn't come out prior to now, only because the 24 was just on. But rain tyres for the Porsche Cup Car 992, and the MX-5, and all GT4 class, and the LMP3. Now, I know your first protocol is to go to, wow, how are we meant to drive the Porsche Cup car in the wet when it's so hard to drive in the dry? But to be honest, the one I'm actually scared of driving in the wet is the LMP3.
Oh yeah, I'm just trying to scoot to this part in the post, but yes. Well, we often touted that the main reason why the Porsche Cup car hadn't got its wet tires just yet is because of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercar has, and potentially throwing a banana peel in that season midway through with the release of rain, so they've kept it out. But yeah, the LMP3 I haven't done a whole lot of driving in yet, but that's going to see that. What's that series called? The GT4s and the LMP3 series.
The Falcon Sports Car Series.
Yeah, so the Falcon Sports Car Series is now going to get the weather coming its way. It's fair to say. Fair to say.
The issue with the LMP3 is the fact that car, especially under braking, can be very unpredictable. And like the Porsche Cup car, when that thing gets squirrely, you can kind of predict it and catch it. Worst case scenario, you might run the corner deep. But the LMP3, if you start to get squirrely and try to catch it, the thing will just spin into a 360 into the corner. So I'm keen to see how the time model is for that and how it works in the wet. But the thing is too, like when you drive that thing, you either have traction control on the lower setting or off. And that's how they usually run it in real life as well. So who knows? Maybe with traction control wound up a lot in the wet, it might be a lot more drivable. Who knows? But yeah, we'll have to find out, I think. But yeah, I'm definitely keen. Like all those cars there, like prick my ears up for rain tires, like especially like the AMG GT4, which we run in Premiere, and the MX-5, I think, would be cool in the wet because the Tired 86 is cool in the wet. Yeah. But I still think the MX-5 is a far better car to drive than the 86 because it's just, I don't know, there's just something about that car that's just always fun to jump in and every now and then flog around.
Synonymous with iRacing, isn't it?
Yeah, literally. But the Porsche Cup, that's going to be cool, that one, I reckon, just to see how they've done that.
What do you make about the paragraph in here about the career mode?
That's been getting talked about for a long time, mate. And it's like, it gets mentioned.
Yeah, it's in here as part of the patch notes. But the way, if I understand it correctly, it's sort of saying it's a bit early to get in depth here, but I can share that our efforts with career mode are extensive. So I'm based off that first sentence, I'm assuming it's not coming in this build, although where it's positioned in the build notes sort of suggests that it might be.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like people have been asking for it, for a long time, and like it's not something that I would probably do. Like I don't think, but apparently a lot of people just want to be able to have that sort of career mode where they can just sort of jump on and just have some AI races but just work their way up for the ranks. Like,
yeah, it's sort of saying that that they can. That they've got a functional framework for career mode and provide a save game like capability to how you go racing. So, obviously iRacing, you've had to be there, present racing, start to finish with no interruptions during a race. But it looks like there's going to be, well, obviously we've got AI, but there's going to be save game capabilities. I'm not expecting a whole lot. I'm a little bit pessimistic, actually, to be honest. I look at AI, great training tool. I'm not setting up 10 rounds series with AI.
Nah, we use it for what, like training for like the 24-hour races, just to see how the multi-class will be for that, just to get used to having cars dive bomb you or, trying to overtake cars. Or, just to have, Jimmy Broadband on track and just punt him every time you go past him. But it's not something that, especially too, that's the thing that, I love iRacing for is the competitiveness of versing other people. So I just don't think, like, I think I would treat that career mode as I do with ACC. I'd do it for 5 minutes and then get bored of it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, there are people that genuinely do iRacing and only run AI. So there would be people out there that would do it. But yeah, I think the majority are still going to, just run at the normal course.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the way I look at AI as a training tool. And when you look at it like that, it's a valuable inclusion, but it's not forming the main way you play iRacing. It's just not. Yeah. And I think career mode, I find it very hard that it's going to be, and I know it says here that it's going to be an extensive career mode, but I kind of struggle to see how it could be an extensive career mode. For me, that's like, when you look at something like F1, it's either developing your car across the course of like a 10-year career or moving up the ranks in teams. And I don't see, well, all those licensed series and stuff aren't going to come to iRacing, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so watch this space. It's interesting, but I kind of view iRacing as an online player v player simulator.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't see anything apart from training for use for AI. So that's a pretty good wrap. Unless you want to talk a little bit more about Saxon Ring on the iRacing build notes.
There's only a couple of things there. Like they're talking about this new thing they want to bring in. So they like on every car, the clutch is the same in every car, but they're talking about bringing this clutch variability in. So like each car would have, basically no two clutches are alike is what it says here.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, like I think, we try to make it as real as possible, but I think there are some things where it's just like, just leave it as it is. Like, and I think this is one of those things where it's just like, it's not really necessary. Like, so yeah, not really sure about that one. But
on the point of clutches, I'm digressing a little bit. On your current rim, do you have the second set of paddles?
No, I just have the gear shift paddles on mine.
Because that's where it should. I've had them, and I've never got around setting it up. I tried once just to find my way through iRacing, and I'm like, I've got no idea what I'm doing here. I'm going to have to find time to watch a YouTube tutorial on how to do this. But for cars like GT3 cars, obviously the Porsche Cup car, open wheelers, Formula One, I'm assuming, F3 and that might as well. They would probably be a useful tool to have, and we're talking about these no two clutches are alike. This is a good example where maybe the current model being a universal clutch feel across all the series is making these additional paddles on a rim not really viable. But maybe if we're going to get a series of different clutches, they could all of a sudden start to become a useful thing to have.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we can, we get in those other cars, maybe having that second set up. I actually think it's a really important thing to get right, because it frustrates me to no end, especially in the V8 Supercars series, that blokes are still, racers, blokes, ladies, whatever, are able to just gain so much advantage by having an auto clutch and not doing a clutch and line lock start, which is, you should get rewarded.
Sorry, what start do we actually call it? We call it the boomer start. Is that what we call it?
Yes, so stand as hard as you can on the brake pedal, and then just apply 50% throttle, 75% throttle, release the brake and drive away with that is so what iRacing's trying to be.
And so unrealistic, but at the same time too, it's super realistic, because that's how everyone drives a forward or a Holden. So, one foot on the brake, one foot on the throttle.
Yeah.
that's how you traditionally meant to drive them, isn't
it? Then get rewarded for lighting the rear tires up on the start line.
Yeah.
We should be able to do one leg burnouts in.
Yeah, just single peggers everywhere.
Yeah, so I hope there is some refinement in that, and yeah, no, you bring up a good point. It's worth talking about. I really hope that gets cleared up because, you know, I still do the line lock,
Yeah.
in the V8 Supercar, and I just get dominated every single race. But
yeah, it's crazy how much of an advantage you can give you just by doing the boom start.
But I don't even think about changing the settings to the boomer start until I'm on the grid. So every single time. So I hope that does get cleared up. But anyway, so there are a couple of the big points coming across in the new iRacing build. What are we now? A few weeks out? Not too far away, really, is it?
No, we are literally like what we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We are 4 or 5 days out. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and sorry to interrupt this podcast, but I just wanted to let you know that Sim Racing in Focus podcast is proudly sponsored by Camus and their sim racing product lines. Camus have kindly backed the show through their C5 product line, which is their entry-level direct drive wheelbase. The C5 offers 5 Newton meters of torque in its direct drive motor and also plenty of mappable buttons to use with any of your preferred sim racing titles on PC. Of course, anyone looking to enter the sim racing market for the first time might want to consider the direct drive option that's available at a very, very competitive price point when you're looking at other entry-level products. To find out more about the C5 product line, you can look into the Sim Racing in Focus blog site where we have some articles up regarding the C5 product line. And you can also follow the links on the website through to Camus's site where you can purchase anything. And there is also a 5% off discount code in the articles to use at checkout. If you feel so inclined, it's at no cost to you, and it's a great way to support the show. So once again, it's a big thanks to Camus for jumping on board with the show. But with all that being said, let's get back to the conversation. All right. Well, it's been a few days since our last podcast. But in that podcast, we talked a little bit about the collapse of Fanatec. There was a rather interesting post that went out on the Fanatec Facebook page. Do you want to give us a little bit of an insight as to what that post was all about?
Yeah, from what I can decipher on it, there was an attack on planet Endor. I honestly, the more I read it, the more I get confused. But like, there was a post on the Fanatec Facebook page, and then like 10 minutes later, it was taken down. So like, take away from it what you will. Like, this could be true. This could be just posted by an admin that had just had enough. Like this could have been just posted by an admin that was just having too much of the sauce one night. Like, just who knows? They might have been hacked. Like I said, it could be true, could not be. Who knows? But it just goes on just talking about how like the page like is no longer under control like from the management of like Endor anymore, and it goes on about just saying that like what they were forcing share prices down and then just trying to drive it, and then so that way like Corsair could come in and just take them over like nice and cheaply. Like, it's just, there's a lot of waffle there, but it's like it's all said in a way that looks legitimate. So it's I don't know, but at the same time too, like it could just be all tin hat crap. And they could have just punched it all into Chat GTP so it looks legitimate. Like, it's so hard to look at stuff like this these days and go, yeah, no, I believe it. Like, because you just don't know. Like, it's just,
So it's a big post comes out. It talks about how the ownership and the board of Fanatec was almost getting forced into a takeover. The recently fired CEO had a reasonable proposition to try and get them out of the financial Maya, but it was refuted. So that in the attempt to drive share prices down and put the company into a hedge fund, which would be easier for something like Corsair to take over. I don't know if that's fact. That's just the way it reads. So, and then it sort of finished the post by issuing a warning to anyone that was up and coming in the sim racing world that this is going to happen to you too. So it was kind of like doomsday. And then it issued a whole heap of links for for you to go and follow it in Reddit. It was like Save Fanatec or something like that in Reddit. Yeah. But then it had like the typical malware like serial numbers at the end of it, like in a faulty email address. So I couldn't stand here with any amount of confidence and say it was 100% legit. But you are seeing a few bits and pieces pop up now where the narrative's getting spoken about that this has been 2 years in the making, where they've been suppressing. They're like even in that post, it was like, have you had a poor customer service experience with Fanatec in the last 2 years? This is why, because they're basically pushing and forcing them into this. No, I don't even know what you call it, but yeah, it's sort of alluding to this interaction and this bullying is a reason to why, which I find that kind of hard to believe. Like,
basically what they're trying to say is Sim Magic's going to get bought out by MSI, and Mose is going to get bought out by Gigabyte,
and we're going to have a PC war in sim racing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're not aware of that, it is out there. You can find it, and you can try and find. I went to the Twitter, the Save Fanatec Twitter account, and it was all in Mandarin. So yeah, that says a lot to me.
It's just such a mess, eh? Like, more than likely, it's just they've probably been hacked, or someone's just going on a rampage. Like, but you just don't know. Like, you never know.
Nah.
That's it. I love the drama of it all, but I don't know. I need a bit more evidence on this one.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's all we'll give it. Let's all right. Well, let's talk the Nürburgring 24-hour special event. So it's been a bit over 2 weeks since I think our last episode was released, and in that time, N24-hour race iRacing special event has been run and won.
How did we go in it? Did we do good?
I would have to say that you lived up to your name, and you gave us a packet loss before we even started the race.
Oh, mate, that was the most stressful thing ever. Like, I always put myself in the position to start the 24s for us. Regardless. Like, I'm always
we genuinely need you to, because most of us are like getting kids up at that time in the morning.
So like, I'm always the one that's like usually like signing us up and starting the stream. So I'm always there at the start, regardless of who drives the car. But like a lot of the time, it usually ends up being me starting the car, and like, it always goes smooth. Like, regardless, because I usually like prep it all the night before. I'm like, we're good to go. Everything's updated.
You are very good for that. You saved me so much by doing that. So much to the point now that I've forgotten how to do
it. So like the night before, like I've literally just gotten everything set up in the new house and like got it all done. I'm like, the streaming computer's ready to go, blah, 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 blah. Like, I need to do some updates. So did a graphics card update on both PCs, and then did a Windows update, and then they both shut down. I'm like, we're good to go. Anyway, I turned all the computers on, and for whatever reason, the sim PC is just like, oh, you're missing this file. This file's corrupt. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? And then my computer just would not even let me in my computer control panel. I could not go into any Windows tool application at all. Like, I was frozen on this PC, and it was like, it ended up being the update that was just corrupted. And I had no way of being able to roll it back because I couldn't access on it because I thought I had no control panel even installed in the computer. But lucky enough, I had a application that did open called Revo Uninstall. And I got that a couple of years ago to get rid of some hidden drivers from an old wheelbase that were giving me troubles. And this tool actually force opens a classic version of the control panel, and it managed to let me roll it back. But by the time I got it sorted, the 24 had already started. Like we're already like 30 minutes in, I think. So past the sign-on point. So
Mate,
we pulled the pin.
I've had that situation. Similar thing happened to me, and it's so frustrating. And you think the worst, like, is this hardware? Has something fried? And, typically in the past, I've had it happen to me twice in the last 6 years where I've had to do a full Windows reinstall and bring everything back on to the computer.
Yeah. And I honestly thought I was going to end up doing that. And like, I was just like so angry because I was just like, oh, I do not want to have to go through the process of having to like redo all my settings, download everything. I'm like, this sucks because I've just got so much crap on that PC. And like, I need to actually, now they've got it fixed, I actually need to go through and like back up that hard drive that's on it and do it the right way. I've done that, but no, me, I probably won't. But like,
the last time it happened to me is when I'd been running the Asus ROG CPU tweak, and you could put your RGB controller in there as well. And then I got a new Corsair case with all the new ICU RGB system, and so I downloaded Corsair's version of the RGB controller, and I kind of like the two programs sort of like were like collided. I don't know, Harry Potter and Voldemort trying to like go through where they're like
one's fighting the other,
twisting together in the they just wouldn't work together, and it just destroyed the computer to the point the same thing. I'd boot it and I couldn't even get to the point where I'd put my computer password or PIN in, it would just crash again. So it was, I don't know. That's what I'm putting it down to anyway, because once I was able to get it into a safe state and remove that Corsair software, then it started working again. So I hope Fanatec and Corsair don't mesh the same way as the those two pieces of software. So, So how does that make you feel then when you see Max Verstappen rock up to the
mate,
to the Grand? Was it Monaco? Was this Monaco?
Or was it was the previous
Imola. One. Imola.
Yeah, Imola. Yeah.
So he rocks up to Imola and somehow managed to get a rig put in his motorhome. Race.
Yeah, did you hear the actual story as to like how they went about that and like what they did?
Only briefly, but go into further detail here.
So they were like, I think originally the team tried to work with Red Bull to get it in there on a Red Bull truck or whatnot, and they're just like, oh no, we can't, blah blah blah. They're like, oh, we're cool if you're doing it, but like we just don't have the resources to do it. Like, we just got everything we need for the team, blah, blah, blah.
So did you say Red Bull doesn't have the resources to put a sim rig in a truck?
No. So the thing was actually in his motorhome, but I think to get it there, or to deliver it or whatever and that. And so I think I'm pretty sure that's how it went down.
That's the biggest can't-be-asked excuse I've ever heard.
Yeah. So I think how they got it there was on a flowers truck or something like that, like a enclosed flower truck. I think it was somebody from the team organised it, like the team Redline organised it, and then got it there, and then they fully assembled it in the motorhome, and then they had an issue with the power. I think the power kept cutting out to the motorhome trying to run it all. So then so they got another power unit for it to run it. I think it had its own separate power from the motorhome. But like once they all got it up and running, like it just ran flawlessly. And it just goes out there, puts it on pole, and then late night, throws 4 or 5 hours in on the sim over midnight, and then
wins the 24-hour race, which is probably the biggest achievement he had that weekend, and then wins Imola or whatever. Can you imagine the meeting room where, like, can you imagine the scenario where, whoever from Redline's in the truck with Christian Horner and just being like, listen, we're going to need Max this weekend, Christian. He needs to do the 24-hour race. He's contracted to Redline.
It's so funny. Like, there's been a couple of questions lately about like how they feel about it, and they're like, "No, it's fine." They're like, he manages it well, like on how he goes about it all, so it's fine. Like, it doesn't affect us. Like, he's performing, so there's no issue. Which is good. Like that, it's like that. I don't think they'd let Danny Ricciardo do the same sort of thing. But yeah, given that this guy's just,
you never know, mate. They might actually want Daniel Ricciardo to start doing that because he's kind of out of options at this point. And I say that he's my man crush. Like, I just want him to do so well. But
at least how's this? Like, it's funny, like all the talk about Team Redline at the moment, whatnot. I heard, I'm pretty sure it might have been on another podcast. It might have been like David Sampson that might have said it, but they were talking about Richie Stanaway, and apparently he used to drive on Team Redline. And I was like, I had no idea.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Not that I've associated. Look, there'd be better people out there that would know more about this than me. But, when you've got Cooper Murray, I think he races for the Red Bull team.
Yeah.
Verstappen and Redline have also got their Redline Red Bully backed side of things as well. But there is quite a few Aussies that either have been tangled up over there with those teams or still currently are. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was. I kind of get the feeling that, it all stems through, and again, pure speculation, but obviously Max and SVG have got a good relationship. And then if anyone from the supercar community is half decent at, this whole iRacing thing, they're probably getting fed into that team from SVG.
Yeah.
To come and do some guest appearances or something like that. Again, pure speculation, but you could see a very clear path there as to how some of the Aussies would get involved.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, pretty impressive feat. He kind of just, Red Bull wouldn't stop him. Like, I think it's the coolest part is just how passionate he is about it. Like Verstappen, that is, where he's just, he's not willing to give it up.
Yeah, he literally froths on it, eh?
Yeah.
Like, and like when you hear him talk about Formula One, like he's always saying how, like, prime example, the Monaco race. He's like, "Oh, it was boring. It was boring.
I need my pillow out here. This is boring." Yeah. But he's been that way. Yeah, he's been that way about the Monaco Grand Prix for the last 2 or 3 years as well. Like, he doesn't hold back.
Yeah, but then you hear him like talk about, like, recap a bloody iRacing race, and he's like, "Oh, it's the best thing ever." Like, like, just like, what? Like,
he speaks so passionately about it, and Red Bull are like, "This isn't worth fighting." Even if we don't agree with it, this isn't worth fighting, because he's just, I think they get the impression from him that he's just as likely to just one day just turn around and go, "That's it, I'm done with F1." Like,
100%. And I think he enjoys iRacing too, because it sounds like it's more of a challenge, because there are people that are actually like, are faster than him that he has to try a bit harder with, whereas it's not as easy as Formula One.
I look at we had Monaco obviously this weekend. Even the drivers are resigned to the fact that it's a procession, and I think the only reason it's money. It's money and glamour, and it's got nothing to do with actual real racing.
Yeah, it's just a big party, like.
It's a dick swinging contest.
Literally, like, it is just a money dick swinging contest. It's just that's all it is, man. And like, you watch the qualifying, like, there's always cars parking it, like either letting someone go or looking for a tow or whatever. Like it happens in every race series on every track, but like Monaco, man, there's just cars parked up on the side of the road, just chilling next to a guardrail. Like, and it's just like the cars trying to do their lap are still getting interrupted by it, even though they're out of the way, because it's just such a crappy, tight circuit. Well, it's just like, as far as street circuits go, it's garbage.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's a one-way road. Like, it's an alleyway. Like, it's not a street circuit.
It's a real problem. It's a real problem. Because it's a Saturday event.
Yeah.
You know, like it is all down to Saturday, what you do in qualifying. And to your point about the cars parking, it's so easily to be, that qualifying session is so easy to be manipulated with yellow flags.
Yeah.
Like cars being like, oh no, I overshot and now I'm stuck in the runoff. You better red flag or yellow flag the session, and then everyone has to abort their lap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen it. You know, I think Alonso did it. Hamilton did it one year. Like we've seen it happen where the end of a qualifying session's been cut short by a car being in that runoff area. So
yeah,
I held on to it for a long, long time. I used to always look forward to Monaco, but I didn't even watch qualifying this year, that's rare. Yeah. Usually I would stay up and watch qualifying, knowing that was, 9 times out of 10 going to give you the race winner. But yeah, and unfortunately, there's a couple other events in the F1 calendar now that are going the same way, where the Saturday is the day to watch.
Yeah,
it's not
it's kind of like, it's such a weird thing. Like the tracks always kind of remain the same. The cars, the cars have changed over the years, but they haven't gotten bigger, like in size. But it just seems like every year they outgrow the track, like more and more. Like I don't know what it is by that. Like, but it's just like, it's just like you guys are too big to be racing in LA. You need to go elsewhere. Like it's
100%. And they're rubbing the guardrails all through the last sector to try and get the cars through there.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe, one day we'll go hybrid electric, amphibious F1 cars where they can just come out of the tunnel, launch into the marina, race through the marina and come back out. Come back out in the last 2 turns and then just go racing from there. Get our overtakes done on the harbour. But mate, like it's really tragic that thing.
Yeah,
like it's got to go. Like I'm sorry, but I know the heritage and the history, but it's not. You can't say it's not doing the sport anything. I mean, because it is just a big dick swinging celebrity contest at the moment.
Yeah, you had a good run. It's time to put it to bed.
Yeah, there's nowhere else in Monaco. You think it's its own nation, like the amount of nations that don't get an F1 Grand Prix, but Monaco still does, even though that track is pretty much the entirety of the country.
Literally, yeah.
All right. Okay. We digress onto the F1. All right. Well, we'll finish up this week's podcast. We're doing a little bit of race recaps because not only the N24 happened since our last pod, but we also had the most recent round of the Logitech G Pro Invitational series. We had V8 Scops. We had the GT4 series from Premier Endurance League wrap up. I know we haven't talked.
I know you're going to be excited to talk about that one too.
Yeah.
One of your drivers won the series on that one, so
that's why we're bringing it into the show.
And I'll give you a hint. It wasn't me. Although I had one of my best races in a long time, it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you. Sorry. But let's kick it off with. We'll start with the supercars this week. So they went off to Jerez. Is that how you pronounce that track? Jerez?
That is correct.
There we go. It's like I'd heard it before. It's not G-Rez.
Yeah, it's kind of like on the fence. Like sometimes you'll hear people say Jerez or Jerez.
Yeah.
Like it's, but it's definitely not a J that you pronounce it. But yeah, it's the Z always catches people out. It's like some people like a TH, some people say it like a Z.
Yeah. Let's go with Jerez.
Yeah.
So yeah, the V8s had a massive week at Jerez last week, and if you did all those races, you'll be sick of that track. I didn't do them all; I only did one, but I thought it was a really, really fun track to go lapping in. It was difficult to go door to door for me, but I was very slow, so that's probably why. But yeah, let's start with the Logitech G Pro Invitational Series. This was about 45 laps around Jerez. I did get to watch this one, believe it or not, Packets. I got back and watched this one live last week. And we, the qualifying session was pretty much dominated by Lobs Esports. So I wanted to just touch on this team because they're kind of really taken over the V8 Supercar scene now. How familiar are you with Lobs Esports?
I wasn't familiar with it prior to this season. So I don't know if it's new, that team or not, but I just see them up the front every time this season. Like it's just, yeah, they're always there.
Yeah, they I think anyone that's been around the V8 Supercar scenes for a long, any period of time recognizes the names. So your Jared Fieldsells, your James Scotts, your Dylan Rudds, even maybe Josh Anderson might be there, or is he still to get? Anyway, there's about 5, 6, 7 of them, and this qualifying session they had, I believe, the top 5 cars on the grid from qualifying.
Yeah, wow.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially even 6. I can't remember, but they're obviously got backing by Speed Cafe now as well. So they're quite like. I know they started out as I believe it was under the Ryko banner. They were making the sets for Ryko, and they still might be.
Yep.
Yeah. But James Scott got pole from Jared Fieldsells. Which, is another little jewel in James's crown as he sort of, really now is moving into that top 3, 4 drivers in the V8 Supercar.
Yeah.
But and we'll see them later on in V8 Scops as well. But they since the start of the year, since this podcast has been running, they've really been wrapping up a lot of the championships. And I think what was the most... the thing that stood out to me, not only the fact that they had the top 5 cars on the grid in this race, it was the distance to Trans-Tasman Racing, which was probably the previous benchmark. So, your Madison Downs and Richard Hamstead and Josh Muggleton, like these guys, Kurt Stenberg, like they were. I think Madison might have even been down in like P16, 17, and I know the V8 Supercar hasn't gone to Jerez much, but that was certainly a bit of a surprise where, the guys that were in the Lobs Esport team clearly had a good setup for that particular round. So, that was a bit of an eye-opener to me. The race, much like qualifying, as you might expect, had... it went the same way. There was a couple of drivers from Lobs Esports that didn't quite get away to the start. That one of them they ended up dropping down. Dylan Rudd was one of them. He went right down, I think, into 8th, 9th, or 10th. James Scott led for let's call it 90% of this race, and then Packets. I'm assuming you didn't catch this. But it's one for anyone listening in who hasn't seen the race to go back and watch. With about 5 or 6 laps to go, Fieldsells had been following James Scott for the entire race in second, and they built a big lead over the field. And Fieldsells pitted for his last stop, and so he tried to do the overcut. Coming out of pit exit at Jerez, you sort of merge. You're able to come down and merge in mid turn 1. So turn one's a sort of a second or third gear right-hander, and the
Yep.
pit lane blends pretty much on the outside, but it blends in mid-corner. And so you get a lot of the turning done out wide, and then you can almost boot the accelerator and come in with a head of steam into turn one and drive out the exit. And I don't know how common this move was during the race week at Jerez last week, but it's certainly, when you watch the broadcast, was just like jaw-dropping. So James Scott comes through into turn one. They're sort of neck and neck coming out of pit lane. James is on a few lap older rubber. He hits the apex into turn one and then drifts out wide to take the sort of corner runoff. And as he's drifting out, Jared comes out of pit lane and basically pulls the over-under. And because he's carrying more speed, he comes back underneath and gets the rundown into turn two. Like, you have to see it. Like, awesome. Like, words don't do it justice, the sort of move. Like I said, I don't know how common it was for that race week, but the whole race, it was sort of James Scott's race, and I kind of feel sorry for him in a way, because he's probably been he's probably done it once or twice, but when he's been going toe-to-toe with Phil Sella down, he's probably always just come off second best most races that we've seen in this series and others. But and you thought this might have been the race that he pulled it out as a real toe-to-toe battle with these guys, but you have to see the move. The over-under it essentially takes him out of pit exit. I was just laughing, just thinking to myself, how switched on do you have to be to pull that move? Like, or ambitious even, to think that when you're exiting and blending into the racing line, that's a genuine overtake opportunity for you. So, and he did it as clean as anything, and that was it. Shut the gate. He was away then for the last 5 laps. Never looked back. So,
yeah,
just a clinical move for Jared to get the race win.
Yep.
Look, that was probably my highlight from the round. What are we up to? 4, 5, 3 or 4 of Logitech. So, definitely worth a watch to anyone that didn't, especially that ending, the last 5 or 6 laps. So, it was a really cool move. We'll move on into V8 Scops now. So, round 4, also from Jerez. Bit of an attendance drop off this time round. Packets, you probably noticed now we're getting it down to, I don't know, let's call it between 70 and 80 drive. Well, there might have been probably 80 drivers this round.
Yeah, but even initially at the start, like those, I think what was sitting around somewhere about 40 or 50 for a while, and it wasn't until the last couple of days where they just sort of tried their day. Like it was slow going this time. I
thought we might have got that because of the Logitech being at Jerez earlier in the week. And there was probably for anyone that was involved in that race, you probably had put your laps in already and you just needed to just rock up on one night and probably be good enough to qualify.
Yeah.
But you're right. It was sitting at 47 or 57 drivers up until about the Saturday night. And then, a few more turned out then. Lucky for me, not too many.
So because you actually qualified, didn't you?
I qualified, believe it or not, in the 64th and last position. So I couldn't afford any more people come out and qualify.
Look, at the end of the day, all that matters is you made it.
And I'd done about 2 hours worth of prep. So, and considering I hadn't driven the V8 Supercars since round 3 of the the Scop series where I didn't qualify, it wasn't the ideal preparation, but we got there, and that's actually my first ever race in Scops, so that's cool because that Scops was the series that sort of got me into iRacing. I don't know about you, but it does. I suppose for a lot of people in the V8 Supercar community, the V8 Supercars Online Premier Series was the first thing that they witnessed on YouTube as a broadcast capacity and thought, oh, I would like to be part of that.
Well, the first thing that I ever witnessed for iRacing as a broadcast point of view that sort of caught me and got me into it was actually RSRA, funny enough. And I think it was a race that you were in because, I think you had shared it on Facebook. And I'm like, what's this? And then, but I'm pretty sure it was RSRA for me. And then, obviously went down the rabbit hole from there. And, you move on to Scott's and then, you start finding more and more. But Scott's is definitely one of the first ones that sort of drew me in.
Yeah. That's where I ideally hope to end up. So, not that I've had this season's the first time I've actually ever attempted to qualify for Scott's. So, and it comes off the back of not racing the V8 Supercar for over 12 months. So, hardly anywhere near the pinnacle of my powers at the moment.
You're probably at your lowest point of your capability in the car. And you've picked the worst time to ever try to get into Scott's because A, you're probably most rusty, and B, you're probably at the most competitive point of the V8 Supercars within Australia, where numbers are high and the competitive level is so high.
And then they reduce the amount of spots on the grid at the same time.
So to get in regardless, I think it's still good.
Yeah. So no, it was fun. It was a good race. Split 2 was pretty. I got to watch everyone from the back. So I think I started around about. By the time a few people pulled out, around about 30th, and made my way up to 20th or 21st by the end. I think the race was dominated. Let's not say dominated. Jay Brazier? I think he's a privateer. He sort of led for the first half of the race, but I believe Michael Whiting and then Jamie Dyke from the Fishy team come through to finish first and second respectively, and Jay was in third, and they got the sort of automatic promotion up to the main split. And geez, that must be a long night when you go. You race. I think we kicked off. Sessions opened around about 5:45. So you had half-hour practice straight into a 25-lap race, and then there was another like half an hour practice for split 1. Then there was another half an hour qualifying, and then there was the split 1 race, which is more than 25 laps. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it's around 40 or something like that. So that's a long night. That's 4 or 5 hours on the grindstone.
Yeah, you definitely need a shower after that night for sure.
Yeah. You need a few pick-me-ups on the way through, probably too, over the 4 hours.
Yeah, it'll be that. Yeah, that's definitely a bottle of red that night, I reckon.
Yeah, that's big night. So, but it was a pretty uneventful race, except probably when I nearly tried to impale James Chastity into the hairpin. I might have to try and clip that because that was like full double front lock up for about 150 meters. I was just about to end him. It had a rough race to that point already too. He had no front end left, and because he had no business down the back racing, spuds like me. But it was very slow motion, that one, but we'll try and clip that somewhere online and put it on the reel or something like that. That'd be pretty funny. But not much out of that. And then the split 1 race, James Scott come back and Dylan Rudd come back, backing it up from the Logitech race earlier in the week. Madison Down was back in the grid again. Madison had a pretty lean race by his standards for the Logitech race, but he was back up towards the pointy end for Scops. But again, just this one was dominated again by the Lobs Esports drivers. So James Scott wins it from Dylan Rudd. It's really hard. It's going to be hard for anyone to sort of go toe-to-toe with this team for the rest. I don't want to be pessimistic, but they've got some strong drivers in that team. Yeah,
and they're all in fine form too at the moment. Like whatever they're doing with their setups, it's just working for all of them.
Well, that seems to be it seems to be.
They're all very well in sync. Yeah,
they've got. Obviously, they were doing. We mentioned before they were doing the setups for Raiko there. I don't know if that's still the case now, but back, back maybe 6 months ago when we first heard of this team, that's how they launched it, as a setup seller. And I remember the Facebook post being like, "Oh, come use our sets. It's won 28 official races this week." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" And then you see the drivers on there, and you're like, "Yeah, that's probably true." Like,
yep.
So they've got some good inside capabilities with pumping out good sets, because you've never seen this performance gap. I think it's reasonable to say you haven't seen the performance gap between those drivers and the rest of the grid in previous seasons, unlike this season. Someone like Dylan Rudd as well has gone up probably 2 levels from where he was, which was probably a top 10 driver. But now he's a genuine race winner. So the moves moving from 9.5 Sim Sports to the Lobs Esports team this year is obviously paying dividends for him. But yeah, that's probably our week in the supercar. But mate, what about you? You take the floor. Tell us about your iRacing last week and the race that you were involved in.
So we had the final round of the Premier Endurance League GT4 series. It was a 1 hour race at Spa, and it was quite exciting because one of our teammates, Daniel Madgry, he was currently leading the championship by, I can't remember. I think he was on 1,030 points or something like that. But yeah, Owen Coleman was not far behind him, and basically how it had to work was I think Owen had to be ahead of him by. I think Owen had to win it, and then I think Dan had to be in third or higher. Yeah, sorry, yeah. I think So if Owen won it, Dan had to be third or higher to win it, and then so it was a very make or break. And
it was more or less just wherever Owen's finished, he needed to be the next car behind him or in front of him. He couldn't be any lower. Yeah.
So I thought I was nearly going to skip the last round, and I thought I better be a good teammate and come and support Dan, and not that I'm going to be able to do anything because I'm slow anyway. But I actually had a really good race. I managed to have a decent pace. I didn't qualify very well. My time in practice on a race setup was a lot quicker. I think I did nearly almost a second quicker on a race setup than what I did in the quali setup. So I'm not sure what even happened then, but I struggled to get any pace on a quali setup, which is pretty normal for me. We had a really good start, but I think it was only a few laps in. I think I made up a couple of decent spots straight off the bat in the first couple of laps. I gave old Ricky Provenzali a severe dive bomb into turn one. I think it was lap 3, and I think even old Baxter, the commentator, was a bit caught off guard by that as well, because I'd even made him laugh at one point about it. But the one thing that was the big highlight was Dan got a severe slowdown. I think it was through Eau Rouge early on in the race, and the slowdown was just painful for him. Like, he was trying to clear it and slow down, but in the end he nearly got a black flag, because even slowing down, it was still incrementing time up, and he pretty much had to come to like a near standstill for it to completely clear. And then at that point, I think he lost like 5 or 6 spots, and just put him way back. So at that point, like, where they were going to finish, Owen was going to win it. And then for whatever reason, there was I need to go back and look at the replay, because even I don't even know what happened to this car. It was like old mate just gave up and pulled over. It was a weird one.
He ran out of fuel. He said he put his.
Is that what happened?
Okay. After the race, yeah.
All right, so he's done a packet. So I know what that's like. I've done that before. Because it was so bizarre. I was hell confused. I'm like, this guy's just pulled over and just given up. It was like really bizarre. And then that brought the safety car out, and then that safety car was a bit of a saving grace for Dan, I think, because that brought him up pretty much back with the front pack again, and he got a few overtakes done. And sure enough, down to the wire on the final pit stop, Dan and Owen were pretty much like right near each other, and Dan managed to get ahead of him and managed to finish just in front of him. I think Owen tried to go for the pass on the last turn, but overcooked it into the last chicane. But like regardless, it wasn't going to make a difference anyway whether he got around him and that. I think Dan ended up coming away with the championship win, which is good. He's been really solid all season, Dan. He's had a really good run.
Yeah, he's a quiet achiever, isn't he? He's not a...
Yeah, he is,
He's just been working his way up. He's getting up there near 4K in the old IR as well, like just churning out the GT4s. And he's been strong in that series. Even by his own admission, Owen's probably had the one lap pace on him, but those two have been head and shoulders in that series. We've seen a couple of really good performances along the way. Like I think it's Adam Burhop come over to do the last round. He won the race. In the end, that Beamer just had some serious pull.
Mate,
the great. Jeez.
Yeah, I remember so many times, and I overtook Ricky in the third lap, I think it was, and the start of the race, like I was trying to line him up a couple of times in the first couple of laps, and I'd be on him. He was pulling away from me on the straight, and I was like nose to tail, and I'm like, how? I'm like, how are you doing that? And then
Beamer being in that BMW,
and then under brakes too. The thing was just mental under brakes. Like there was one point there, after I'd overtaken him, that into the last chicane, like I was braking him a normal brake marker, and he was just braking way later and like on my tail into the corner, and he was nowhere near me before the corner. Like it was just. I said to him after, I'm like, man, were you braking late or what? Like, did you fry your tires? He goes, oh, they're a little bit cooked. He goes, it wasn't too bad. And I was just like, man, you were just braking so much harder and later than I was. Like, I was just nowhere near that. I was just like, I don't know how you did it. Like, I was like, if I did that in my car, like I wouldn't have had any turning at all after a couple of laps. So,
you're chomping the ABS.
Yeah.
Is ABS
the
in
Merc
GT4?
Yeah, the Merc is so easy to activate the ABS. Like it doesn't take much on the brake pedal to activate it on that, I reckon.
Yeah, it's another one for the people to go back and watch. Even if you're not following along with the Premier Endurance Series, you just need to go back and watch the last 5 laps on that race to get it, because effectively, Adam Burhop was in the lead. It's the first race he's done with the Premier Endurance League in the GT4s, I believe. So he won on debut. I think he's quite familiar with the GT4 class from other series. Sean Chapman, who
Sam Chapman. Yeah.
Come out of nowhere. So the way the race went is pretty much the field did 2 stops, apart from Sam Chapman, who basically utilized the safety car and everything like that, and he was able to fuel save, even though he didn't have the pace of the 3 at the front, and he never featured at the 3 at the front until the very end. He did the ultimate strategy play, which I think he's making a bit of a name for himself. I think I'm right.
He's done it before. He's pretty well known for doing that. It's just crazy. I'm like, how are you doing that? I'm like, because even I was against him at one point, and I just pulled away from him. I'm just like, what? I'm just
these races are becoming such fuel save races.
I know. Yeah, it's like it's just all strategy now. Like it's like pace is a little bit of it, but strategy is like a major key.
Yeah. So he takes second, and Dan held off Owen for third, but it was leading into that last pit stop. So Dan made his pit stop with 3 laps to go, and then Owen and Adam did it with 2 laps to go, which it was kind of like a Mexican standoff where I think they were, for the laps leading up to the last pit stop, they were all trying to figure out whether the rest of the cars in their little 3-man breakaway really needed to pit again, or how much fuel they needed to take when they did pit, because obviously Spa's such a long pit lane, you really needed to be stood still for as a short period of time as possible, and that was going to yield big gains. I know that's quite obvious to say, but And they were they were running around nose to tail, less than a tenth between the cars, and trying to figure out when's the best time to go in. And I'm no pit crew expert or what do you want? Crew chief. There we go. Actually, I'm far from it. I'm one of the worst strategy people out there. I am woeful, but I'm quite proud at that moment because I remember I said to Dan, my gut feeling was right with these 3 cars in the line. If Owen somehow managed to leapfrog Adam and take the win, and Adam was between Dan and Owen, Dan loses the championship.
Yeah.
That was the way it was explained to me at the time. Dan said,
yeah,
because in fairness, these 2 guys have basically been right at the front all season. So he just felt, okay, Owen can drive away and win the race. All I need to do is finish second.
Yeah.
I think he felt quite confident that the race was going to play out until he got the slowdown.
Yeah.
I think he felt quite confident that that's exactly how the race was going to pan out.
Yeah. He just had to be right next to Owen, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. And so and Owen sat behind, and Owen had done the full length of that second stint sitting behind Adam. So I'm sitting there thinking to myself, there's a fair chance Owen saved a lot of fuel here. Like he's done 15 laps behind Adam. There's every chance in the world that if they execute the pit stop similarly, that Owen's going to be stopped for less time and he comes out in front. So Adam, so they were all trying to do a bit of fuel saving and therefore they were slowing each other up. So I tried to get Dan to pit with 4 laps to go. And they said, okay, mate, I think you got 2 options here. You can either go in order, follow them in, and hope that Owen doesn't jump Adam, which is your conservative approach, or we got to pit now, and then you're going to go hell for leather and try and essentially undercut these guys. We were going to go in lap 4, and we got to the bus stop, and he went, "Oh, one more." He didn't quite have his numbers figured out, so he stayed out one more. And I thought, geez, that could be the hesitation there. That cost us, because that the other 2 were slowing up with a lot of fuel save, and basically the way it is, Owen still emerged from pit lane in front of Dan, but because it was down the Camel Straight, by the time they got to the end of the Camel Straight, Dan just had way too much speed, so he took him. So we got the move done with 2 to go, which was quite a nice feeling because, like you said before, that allowed Adam to skip away in front with Sam. So the worst that could happen was Owen would get round into 3rd, but Dan would be right there and would have done enough to secure the championship. So it worked really well. That was kind of a real satisfying one to get the call right.
Yeah.
So, and then Dan obviously just executed it, and the outlap that he did after that was good enough to get the job done. So
because what ended up happening with Owen as well is Owen overfueled too on that final stop.
He did, yeah.
Yeah, when he finished the race, he had about 2 laps of fuel left, which is funny, because I was fuel saving like pretty much all the race because most of the race I had a draft. So if it was the last chicane or if it was the straight after Eau Rouge, I was rolling out early every lap, as long as I was going to draft. So when I came around to the last refuel, I dialed the auto refuel back to, you can put the extra laps that you want to put in there. I had it set at 0. So it needed to put the bare minimum in. And I finished the race with over a lap and a half's worth of extra fuel. And I was like, what? I'm like, how? Like it was crazy. Yeah, I was just like, far out. Like,
because it didn't make a lot of sense because that's what I'm thinking to myself. So you pitted with 2 to go, and that means you would have had to put 4 laps worth of fuel in.
Yeah, because I was able to go the extra lap because I fuel saved enough. Like I was able to get the extra lap in. Like
because Dan was on empty. He couldn't when he pitted. I think he had enough to go 1 more lap and pit with the other guys. But we pitted then. So I don't know how you end up with 2 more laps when you needed to pit and only fuel for 2.
Yeah,
to end up with 2 more. But I know the chaos it can be at the end of that race, and if you're relying on iRacing's auto fuel system, generally, you would end up with 2 more laps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was absolutely kicking myself too, because I was pretty much with that top sort of four, like most of the race, and then just for whatever reason at turn 5, that little hairpin, I just came in way too hot and just the rear slid around. And I caught it, but it put me back a few seconds, and I didn't lose any positions or whatever. So I was still in the same position, but it just lost me that ability to stick with the lead group. And it sucks too, because on that final pit stop, because of the amount that I actually saved, even though I overfueled a little bit, I actually reeled that group back in by like 2 seconds or something it was. I'm like,
well, they were all trying to fuel save whilst racing each other.
So once I got towards the end, I just stopped fuel saving. So I'm like, nah, this should be enough. And I was just like, oh man, if I didn't stuff up, I probably would have bunny hopped, and I would have been maybe on for a podium at that point, if I didn't throw that away. But oh well, that's what you get for being packets.
Yeah. So we're used to it now. That's cool. But that was a really cool wrap up to the GT4 season for Premier Endurance League, and we'll have the conclusion to the GT3 season this Sunday night as well. So
I'll be pulling the pin on the Lambo grenade and giving it a good final send off, I think.
Yeah, in Spa as well for the final 2-hour race. But that'll be our week it was in racing, and I think that'll wrap us up for this week's episode of the Sim Racing in Focus podcast as well. Once again, mate, big thanks for jumping in and saving us this week. We've been under a fair bit of pressure, but always nice to have you in to talk iRacing.
No, that's a good, mate. I enjoy it, so it's always good to come back and do a bit of dribble with you.
Yeah, that's what it is. But that's awesome stuff. So we'll hear from you again shortly, no doubt. But for everyone that's tuning into the show for the first time, or even if you are a regular listener and you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. You can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Google Podcast has closed its doors now, so I believe it's not available on Google Podcasts anymore. But I think nowadays most people are in that either Apple or Spotify avenue. By all means, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and hopefully we'll get some more video content for these podcasts coming up, as well as a few little reels and stuff from what we've been up to during the week, or any other major news topics that have been sort of happening in the sim racing scene. But yes, you can also go and jump onto Facebook, like and subscribe there, and check out the Sim Racing in Focus.blog website for other content as well. But with all that being said, I think it's bye for now.